086 1800 964 if you were at any of the sporting action over the weekend. I want to give us your thoughts on them. We are going to focus first on the hurling, but joining us to do that is our sports editor Derrick Lynch. Derrick, good morning to you.
Morning, Alan.
And also with us is Tommy Guilfoyle as well. He'll be joining us in just a moment. But first, we're going to hear from John Conlon, because I suppose that's one of the big talking points from Clare's comprehensive victory. 335 to 15 points in their round 3 game in Division 1B of the National Hurling League across the road from us here at Zimmer, Biomet, Pairc, Chíosóg. And afterwards, John Conlon admitting it was an emotional moment to return to the starting lineup, of course, after recovering from that serious hand injury. An incredible turnaround to see him back in the banner jersey after, I guess, given what happened, a relatively short turnaround. And Conlon says it was a special moment to be back in the county jersey.
It's actually funny at 36 years of age going up playing a game and you're probably feeling a bit nervous, but yeah, look, it's just great to get back out in the field. Last year was tough, and just a nice moment today to just settle back in and get back out and play with the lads. If you told me last July that I'd be doing this again, I would have probably said it was a mad thing. But in fairness, look, I talked to the surgeons and they said go with a goal that you be hard to achieve, and it's been a tough 6 or 7 months, but look, it's been all worth it, and it's great to just get back out playing with lads and wearing that Clare jersey again.
So that's John Conlon speaking after playing the first half of Clare's big win over Down. Derrick, I mean, do you want to start with John Conlon, or do you want to talk about the manner of the victory? It's certainly a big talking point coming out of that game.
Yeah, I think on a real positive sense, and I suppose the game itself, we touched on it Friday, that you're in a no-win scenario in a lot of ways. Like Clare scored 335 and everyone's kind of saying you should be doing that, and if there's any tighter we'd be ringing out alarm bells. So It was just about getting the victory and having no more injuries. I think that was the crucial part. But yeah, to start with John Conlon, what a man. I think the love and esteem he's held in within this county was always great, but it's after going up 100,000 notches after yesterday to see him back in the jersey. And there was one moment there, and we were watching as the play went up the other side of the pitch. John Conlon, Conor Cleary and Eibhear Quilligan had a kind of a triumvirate coming together around the 21 metre line, where they were just talking to each other, pointing out various parts of the pitch, and it was just, I think, a microcosm of the leadership that those three fellas bring in a defensive sense in particular, that they were spotting things while everything else was going on. And that's when you often hear this cliche of the more experienced team, and you kind of ask yourself the question, what quantifies experience? That's exactly it. Yeah. It's having seen a scenario before, knowing how to react on the field, and basically doing a manager-coach job inside the 4 white lines without having to look to the sideline for guidance. So that's what John brings to it. He's just that all-action, warrior. We've seen that. Made his debut in 2009. Ronan Kilroy came on yesterday, Jamie Moylan came on yesterday. Those lads won a minor All-Ireland 3 years ago, so they were in nappies when John Conlon was making his debut, just to put that into context.
Sorry, John, if you're listening this morning, you're not that old.
Well, he is, but not. That's the length of service he has given. So it's just, it really is incredible stuff, and it's a testament to the commitment that he gives to the cause, the shape he keeps himself in. There isn't an ounce of waste on him. He's made of granite, and he's just an inspiration for everybody, really. And it's the modesty, for him to admit, I was nervous before the game. That's a real admission of what it means to him, that he wanted this to go well. He hadn't got to play for Clonlara, obviously, after the accident happened last year. Hadn't featured, we'll say, in the Munster League, or, the couple of games that have had in training before the Christmas. So,
this is his first outing
for him. It was huge, and it just shows how much. I remember talking to him the first year of their own Robin. Clare played Waterford, if I'm not mistaken, in the Pairc, and he was talking about, it was the first time we were playing a home championship game because of the new round robin structure. Everywhere else, other years it was all neutral venues. And I remember talking to him, and he's saying really openly how much it meant to come in on the bus and see the park full and the shed roaring and all the rest of it. So this guy lives and breathes Clare hurling. So to have him back is phenomenal. The days we didn't have him were huge. You go back to that first semi-final in that 3-in-a-row run against Kilkenny. News broke early that morning that he was out. It was a massive blow for the team, for the supporters, for everybody. John Conlon is key. He'll go down in history. No, and I'm not eulogising him now. I'm just saying that this is what John Conlon is to Clare hurling. He won an All-Star at full forward, he won an All-Star at centre-back. Only the great players do that, and that's John Conlon, so fantastic to have him back.
Yeah, real utility player. Tommy Guilfoyle with us as well. And Tommy, I mean, look, great that Clare, it's 3 out of 3 in terms of victories, but this is a real boost having someone of the stature, as Derrick has very well outlined, of John Conlon back. And incredible, because I would say very few, if any, expected to see him back this early, or indeed, as Derrick touched on, at all.
Well, you know, if there was a way back, John Conlon would find it. You know, rehab, anything he would do to get back on the field would have been John. And you know, I had the pleasure of having John on a minor panel at 15 years of age. So I can go back even further with John Conlon. And look at an ounce of feeding is worth a ton of breeding. He comes from good stock. So John is back to lead, not by what he says, but what he does in training. And I think that is invaluable. You can't put a price on it. So welcome back, John Conlon.
Yeah, very much so. And Derrick, let's get to the game itself. And I know you said we did say Clare were in a no-win situation, but in fairness, they didn't just win; they won well. And people would say, 335 would expect that. But we were talking on Friday a bit down that they were going to present a stiffer challenge than Antrim. They had pushed Wexford so close. So maybe Clare, do deserve more credit than perhaps the majority of people would be likely to give them, because they didn't just beat this side, they completely put them to the sword. And I guess early on, when it was 4 points apiece, rattling them 9 unanswered, down come back at 1 or 2. Maybe they get their dander up a little bit, and Clare just smacked that down with another 9 to really just say you're dead and buried. Yeah,
I think it goes back to a word that Brian Lohan has mentioned a couple of times now in some of his post-match interviews: attitude. And I think, to be fair to the players, they went out and gave down the respect of going full tilt at them. There was no such thing as lobbing about or that kind of switch off that you'd see in sometimes. They went out, they did the job, they got, I think it was, we said at half time, I think they did 22 points on the board, 2 wides. So that, and one thing that they had really, I suppose, been working on the last couple of weeks was that first half conversion rate. I think the last couple of weeks, week 1 it was down around 42%, week 2 it was in around 50%, this week it was between 85 and 90, when you take one or two of the other chances into account. So that was really good from a Clare perspective. Now, okay, 22 points, didn't really have any kind of clear-cut goal scoring opportunity, but then again didn't concede one either. When the chances came, and it's a throwback to, I suppose, what made Tommy a great hurler is that bear in the square scenario, like 2 big balls in towards Peter Duggan and Mark Rogers hanging around off the break resulted in 2 goals. And David Fitzgerald, I think David Hoy actually has repairs to do to the net at that Aldi end after David Fitzgerald's goal. It was some rasper from about 25 yards out, took netting and all in the top corner. Savage finish. But I think what we're seeing, and I think we need to see more of it. Myself and Tommy kind of spoke a bit about this at half time yesterday. You need to see a bit more chaos in hurling. It's becoming, people are saying it's becoming a bit too homogenised,
formulaic, almost.
A little bit PlayStation-like. And but those 2 goals yesterday for Mark Rogers and for Peter Duggan, they came from just fung it into the big man and let the small man work off him. That kind of Niall Quinn, Robbie Keane scenario from another sport, So that was good to see. But also as well, and Tom will touch on this in a minute, like Sinan Dunford was brilliant yesterday. That's one of his first big opportunities.
5 points for him.
Jack Kerwin picked up where he left off after a brilliant performance in that Limerick game and shipped a heavy knock with that head injury. He was really good. I thought Dermot Stritch was excellent at midfield. Conor Cleary did what Conor Cleary does at the back, like they were feeding, it was like as that old Cyril Farrell one, nuts to a monkey, a high ball down on top of Conor Cleary, he wins it all day. So there was a lot to be positive of, both from a newer sense and your more established lads as well.
Yeah, Tommy, plenty of positives that Derrick's highlighting there. I mean, you had a great spread of scores as well, 12 different scorers. What stood out for you?
Well, Alan, what stood out for me was that there is no competition for places, and I think it would have been my own personal view after we won the All-Ireland. You'd wonder, is that hunger and desire there? Now look at our season was bedeviled by injuries. But I think, everyone back fit and playing well. But now we have the added, competition, and nothing smartens the guys mind and attitude than competition for the jersey and the place. And I think, the players that got their chance yesterday, and Derrick has alluded to them there, have really put up their hands. So it'll make for interesting over the next couple of weeks in the lead up to the championship. And I think you talk about attitude. Well, you give a Senan Dunford or a Jack Kerwin or a Dylan Macman a chance. Attitude won't be lacking there. And put them holes in with the Conor Clearys, the John Conlons, the Ever Quilligans, and David Reedy. You're not weakening the team. It's just bringing out the best. And I think that was the big positive yesterday. And I think we spoke about it at the end. It has been a reflection on, the success. Well, not success. The improvement in underage Clare hurling. And by the time the game was finished yesterday, a lot of those players were on the field. So, look, in the present, it's great. Looking forward, we have players. It's about integrating them in at the right time. So I think it was a win-win for Brian yesterday. Good performance, but backed up by the introduction of a lot of new players.
Derrick, Clare will be looking to make it 4 from 4 the weekend after next when they travel to Newbridge to take on Kildare on the 21st. Just wonder what kind of challenge that'll present. I suppose Antrim might have thought they'd get back on the horse after losing in Cushendall to Clare, but they were on the end of a sizable defeat, a 10-point winning margin for Kildare over Antrim, which maybe surprised some people to a certain extent. So Kildare with home advantage as well, be a tough enough trip.
Of course it will, and then again it'll come down to attitude, because Kildare will see Clare coming in. They're going to have a right cut. It's the David versus Goliath scenario, albeit Kildare hurling has been on an upper curve. Brian Dowding's doing a fantastic job there. Naas have been very, very good on the club scene in recent years as well. And if Clare aren't right, they'll get a real fright. That's the reality of it. And Antrim went down badly yesterday, but there was warning signs, I thought, in Cushendall. They were quite poor at times, and Kildare being at home was a massive thing as well. So they're facing a tough kind of a scenario there, in fairness now, or Antrim. But I'm just conscious we're praising all the things that Clare are doing right, but at the end of the day you'd expect it to be done right, because you're talking about playing against second tier teams. So there's nobody getting carried away here, but what you're watching is those words: attitude, decision making and effort. And whether you're playing the All-Ireland champions Tipperary or the Joe McDonagh champions, you have to apply the same principles, and that's where the positivity comes from a Clare point of view. Even watching went over the subs and the extended panel were doing a fairly intense running session now in the far corner yesterday, and just went down there because that's where Brian was hanging out, just to get a bit of a chat with him. And Tony Kelly was leading the post-match running. David McInerney was there. They were the lads that were setting the standards for others to follow. So there's a real, I think, strong sense within the group this year. Okay, last year a bit of a write-off, but I think a lot of that is going to be righted this year. I just have that sense about it.
Yeah, final word to you on this, Tom, before we go to the break. As Derrick says, Kildare will be hoping it'll be a David versus Goliath situation, but attitude seems to be right. Potential banana skins and Antrim and Down. Clare treated them both with respect and beat them both well. You would expect it to be ultimately similar, maybe a tighter winning margin, but that the attitude will be right, and Clare will gain victory in Newbridge in 2 weeks' time. Yeah,
and then the Clare management are taking it game by game. The Fitzgibbon will end up at the weekend, and I suppose to me, and I'm not sure what the management view it, Clare are going about their business, we'll say, away from the spotlight, where the Cork and Tip and Limerick and Kilkees are under the real spotlight, in Division 1A. So, it's an opportunity for Clare to go about their business nice and quietly, and stay away from all the hype. And there's lots of spotlight on the black card penalties, the so-called fracas or melee, and I'd say probably you'd see more pushing and shoving in the Cork Tip game when the shutters come down at a nightclub than you would at the match on Sunday. So Clare avoiding all that, going about their business, not rushing anyone back, taking it game by game, and let's hope at the end of the league that we have a panel big enough, strong enough and good enough to contest that Munster Championship. So far so good, 3 out of 3, so moving on to the next game.
Yeah, and moving on to the next game, indeed.
And just added on the timing, like I think it's set up beautifully for Clare, because if they a win against either Carlow or Kildare will put Clare into the 1B final because of head-to-heads and other results. Clare won't be outside the top 2. And then you have a scenario where the last game comes against Wexford in Pairc, Chíosóg, a 2-week break then to the game against Waterford in the Munster Championship, and I think it's another 2-week break then until we take on Limerick in Pairc, Chíosóg, who will have played the previous week, and then there's another break built into that before the final 2 games, which are on the road against Tip and Cork. So like it's set up lovely, 3 home games within that 6-week period. Yeah. Wexford, Waterford and Limerick, that, and the league final in that mix as well. So it's a fantastic opportunity for the lads to keep building that momentum now. Next 2 games will be crucial. The likes of Colm O'Mara and these fellas who I thought impressed yesterday off the bench as well, they'll probably get more chances. And I think another thing that we've touched on, and that'll be a decision now for management in the next couple of weeks ahead of that game in Kildare. What do you do with Mark Rodgers? Because he has become the free taker now. He's the nailed on free taker, and he's been absolutely brilliant on them. And the more practice he gets, the better. But do you run the risk then of the little bit of burnout if he plays like he finished out the game yesterday? Yeah. But again, the more practice you have at that, the better. So like there's options all over the place. They're conundrums, but they're conundrums that every management dreams of in November and December. So they're in a really good place.
Text here from a Clare supporter on 086 1800 964 says, lads, relax, we were playing down, sweet Jesus. I think that's all factored in, but I think Derrick and Tommy are quite right to point out the positives if they see them, regardless of who they were against.
I do think I said that we are playing against second tier teams. So, but it's in the context of like whether you're playing Tip or whether you are playing Longford.
Yeah.
The decision you make on the ball, okay, you've less time to make it, but it's the decision you make on the ball. Do you hit the 110-yard Hail Mary looper, or do you play the lovely crossfield ball
the right things at the right time?
Yeah. So that's what I think where the positives is. We're making right decisions.
Yeah, and long may that continue. We're going to look at the rest of the weekend sport, the soccer, women's rugby and more besides after this break.
On air,
online
and on your smartphone.
This is Clare FM's Morning Focus.
And we're continuing our look at the weekend in sport. Derrick, Lynch still with us, and maybe we'll turn our attentions to the soccer and more silverware coming into clearer view for Newmarket Celtic. They're into the last 4 of the Munster Junior Cup. Hard work against Hibernians and Waterford, but classic penalty shootout saw them get over the line.
Yeah, and Chíosóg playing both parts in saving 2 penalties and scoring 1 as well, so he could hardly have done more for the victory. We had said that I think this was expected to be well, not easier, I suppose that's the wrong word to use, but it might have been more straightforward for Newmarket given that Hibernian were kind of on that bit of a break, and it took them a long time to break them down. 70 minutes, the old silver fox himself, and he won't mind me saying that, Owen Hayes delivered a ball for Darragh Leahy to nod home, and I think it was around the 70th minute or thereabouts, and you felt that might have been enough. And in fairness to Hibernians, then they drew level kind of dramatically into injury time and forced the added period and ultimately all the way to penalties. But again, like that's the kind of a result that would really steal a team together, because in fairness now, with weather and pitches and one thing and another, it has been a stop-start enough kind of a season, so it's been hard for any team to kind of build up momentum, but Newmarket have managed that now, and I think this will really bond them together. The Munster Junior, I said it here Friday, is a cup that they desperately crave. They have kind of everything else really, that President's Cup, all those different cups they won around the FAI Junior time, so this will be a really special one for them. And of course, don't forget, we're not ruling out a potential All-Clare derby in a semi-final or final as well, because Bridge United are still hanging around. I think it's the end of the month they play their knockout tie in that one. So it's a really good time, but for the market, very, very good. And it's one more job done, and it's another fixture now in the calendar that they can work towards. So it's all positive.
Yeah, there'll be a real sense of satisfaction if they can manage to, get that one last piece of silverware that has eluded them, and the potential for an All-Clare final, not to jinx it, would be lovely as well. More domestically, it was the second round of the Ennis Carpets Clare Cup, and we were talking about that kind of slightly unique fixture of an A team playing the B team, and wondering I did wonder whether the B team would really say we're going to put our hands up here and show why we should be playing for the A team and maybe make a closer game, but didn't pan out that way. Avenue United A showed why they are Avenue United A.
Yeah, a 5-1 victory. So that was fairly putting them back in their box. And if I'm not mistaken, that's a mirror image of Newmarket's win over their B team as well last week in their all-club tie. So, obviously the A team flexing a little bit on that one. 5-0 win for Bridge United as well against Monratti Cratloe in that kind of near neighbour derby game as well. And talking of penalties, Mount Shannon Celtic and Hermitage A, 3-3 after the extra time, and it was Hermitage that came through on penalties in that one. So a massive win for them. And Tulla United, last year's beaten finalists, take another step towards another final appearance. They had a 4-0 win over Bridge United's B team. So big results there. And a good weekend actually for Hermitage. I just see here their B team had a 4-3 win over Shannon Olympic, which are obviously a first team. So that's a good result for them. And Shannon Town B had a 4-3 victory on the road against Cooke. So that's a massive win for them there as well. So yeah, this cup action heating up. And once you see those results, you kind of know that the business end of the season is not far off.
Yeah, plenty of goals as well, which is always good to hear. We were talking about women's rugby as well on Friday, Derrick, and how it had been a very impressive first campaign for Ennis, but it was always going to be tough. Life in Division 1 of the AIL for the first time. We'd spoken about their last win coming in mid-November, but they had kind of expected that the kind of either side of Christmas was going to be a tough period. They've gotten that first win since November, beating Cooke up in the north in Belfast 31-27. Tri-fill game 9-0. Thankfully it was Ennis who got 5 of them, and Avon Donnelly scoring a hat-trick of tries from the wing as well. So all in all, a great day out at the office.
Yeah, a long journey and well worth it in the finish, as you say. And I suppose that creates another dynamic for teams, like that overnight element and how you handle all that. And it can often be difficult filling those hours, and you're not in your own bed, and you're on different kind of time zones almost in terms of your own day. So that's a really, really good win for them. And as I say again, it just I think they're 7th or thereabouts in the standings. I suppose
consolidates.
Exactly, yeah. So they're and the teams below them they've beaten. So as I say, from a head-to-head perspective, if they were to be caught on points, it wouldn't matter. I don't think they can be caught now, really, to be honest about it. And a top 4 place, probably a pipe dream for this season to get to the knockouts. But again, they have something now to build on again to carry this forward. And in fairness to Garrett, like I remember speaking to him up in Mullingar last year after they won that playoff to get promoted to the IL, and he was kind of saying, yeah, resources are going to be an issue because this is all going to cost money. A lot of people don't like to talk about the bottom line sometimes, but it's a reality in sport at that level. But also building a squad, building that depth to carry through an 18-game season. And, they've done that. You mentioned Avon Donnelly, she's a new signing. We know her sporting background, brilliant soccer player as well. And, she'd add a new dynamic to it and brings a good deal of experience from her time playing soccer to the setup.
Scoring prowess, clearly, as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Hat-trick.
But also, like, they did a really good move, I thought, at the very start of the season. They got Shayna and Chloe Morey from Morey Movement in 6 Mile Bridge on side as their S&C, and like 2 more experienced, brilliant Clare sports people you couldn't hope to meet. So not alone were the squad getting the benefit of their S&C experience, but also their sporting experience. So it was a perfect fit for it. And I do believe Chloe had been approached a couple of times to know would she step into the squad as well. I think Gareth is still kind of working on that. Maybe that's one for next season. But so what I'm saying is it was brilliantly managed, that transition by Gareth and his team, and you can see now by the results that they're getting the reward for the structures they put in place before a ball was kicked in anger.
Yeah, no, fair play to them. Derrick, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Derrick Lynch and earlier Tommy Guilfoyle with us to look back over the weekend's sport.